There is a motorcycle that has sold more units than the Ford Model T, more than the Volkswagen Beetle, more than the Toyota Corolla, more than any single motor vehicle the human race has ever built. On October 19, 2017, the 100 millionth one rolled off the line at Honda's Kumamoto factory in Japan. The count today has sailed past 110 million. It costs about as much as a decent laptop. It makes less horsepower than a riding lawnmower, and there is a very good chance you have never heard of it. It is the Honda Super Cub, the little step-through scooter you have seen buzzing around Hanoi, stacked with 3 passengers and a week of groceries, and it is, by a massive margin, the most produced motor vehicle in human history. So here is a fact that should bend your brain a little. After the 2024 model year, Honda quietly stopped selling it new in the United States. The most produced vehicle ever made, the machine that literally put much of the world on wheels, just disappeared from American showrooms, even as it kept right on selling almost everywhere else on the planet. And almost nobody noticed. So how does the most produced vehicle on Earth become the one machine America never really embraced? That is the question. And the answer is a wild mix of geography, law, money, and a 60-year-old advertising campaign that almost changed America forever and then did not. Let us get into it. This story doesn't start with America, though. It starts with a little red and white machine that a Japanese engineer dreamed up back in 1958, because to understand why America is weird, you first have to understand why the rest of the world fell head over heels for the small bike. When Soichiro Honda designed the original Super Cub, he wasn't trying to build something cool. He was trying to build something anyone could ride. So he gave it a step-through frame, no big fuel tank to swing your leg over, which meant you could hop on in a suit, in a dress, in work clothes, no problem. He gave it an automatic clutch, so you didn't need to be a skilled rider to launch smoothly. He added big leg shields to keep the mud and rain off. And the legend goes that he insisted it be light and balanced enough to ride one-handed, because in Japan, delivery guys carried trays of soba noodles in the other hand while they rode. Think about what that actually means. He built a vehicle that required almost no skill, almost no money, and almost no special clothing to operate. He didn't design a motorcycle for enthusiasts. He designed a machine for absolutely everyone. And everyone is exactly who bought it. And that simple design philosophy collided with a simple truth about the rest of the world. In most countries, the word vehicle doesn't mean a car at all. It means 2 wheels, a small engine, and a seat. Picture a typical street in Ho Chi Minh City at rush hour. It's not cars. It's a river of motorbikes, thousands of them, flowing around intersections like water finding its way downhill. Same story in Jakarta. Same in Mumbai, in Lagos, in Bangkok. The default machine of human civilization, the thing billions of people actually use to get through their day, is small, light, and cheap. And the numbers behind that are genuinely staggering. Every year, somewhere between 50 and 54 million new motorcycles get sold around the world. In 2024, global demand came in around 54 million units. To put that in perspective, the entire global car market is roughly 75 million. So motorcycles aren't some quirky little side category. They're a huge chunk of how the world actually moves. And the overwhelming majority of those bikes are small. Motorcycles under 250 cubic centimeters make up more than 80% of global sales. Not a slim majority. A landslide. China alone produces and sells close to 20 million motorcycles a year, and it's become the factory that floods Africa and Southeast Asia with cheap, simple commuters. India is right there with it, selling close to 20 million of its own. 2 countries, each moving nearly as many motorcycles in a year as the entire global car industry sells of some of its most popular models. And it gets more extreme the closer you look. Take India, the single largest 2-wheeler market on Earth. According to research from the International Council on Clean Transportation, around 85% of the two-wheelers sold there have engines under 125 cubic centimeters, and the average engine size across the whole fleet is about 123 cubic centimeters. I mean, think about that for a second. A country of more than 1 billion people, and its default machine is something most American riders would call a beginner bike. The best-selling individual motorcycle model in the world is the Hero Splendor, a 97 cubic centimeter commuter that's been in production in India since 1994. It has sold more than 30 million units, and in a strong month, it can move around 300,000 of them. One bike, 300,000 a month. That's the kind of number that makes accountants cry. And it's not just one model or one country. The whole global lineup of legends lives in this tiny displacement world. The Honda CG125 has been built basically unchanged since 1976, and it's the workhorse of Pakistan, Brazil, and Nigeria. The Honda Wave is the default ride across Southeast Asia. The Honda Activa is the scooter India runs errands on. The Honda Biz delivers your food in Sao Paulo. None of these are exotic, they're appliances, toasters with wheels, and the planet absolutely adores them. So that's the landscape, small bikes everywhere, by the tens of millions. But here's the detail that everyone outside the industry tends to miss. That 125 cubic centimeter figure isn't random. It's not just small and cheap, good enough. There is a very specific reason that exact number shows up over and over again across completely different continents, and that reason is the law. Let's go to Europe for a minute, because Europe is where you can see the machinery most clearly. In the European Union, you do not just get a motorcycle license, you climb a ladder. It starts with something called the A1 license, and the A1 is capped at exactly 125 cubic centimeters and exactly 11 kilowatts of power, which is about 14.5 horsepower. So if you are a teenager in France or Italy or Spain who wants to ride, your legal entry point into motorcycling is, by law, a 125. Not a suggestion, a hard ceiling, and the ladder keeps going from there. After the A1 comes the A2 license, which bumps you up to 35 kilowatts of power, but you usually have to spend a couple of years on the smaller tier first. Only after that can you get the full, unrestricted A license and ride whatever you want. So the European system does not just allow small bikes, it practically forces millions of riders to live on them for years before they are ever allowed to go big. And here's where it gets clever. Because that 125 limit exists, manufacturers build to it. Honda, Yamaha, KTM, all of them sell sharp, little 125 machines, the CB125, the YZF R125, the 125 Duke, and every single one of them is tuned to land right at that 11 kilowatt line. The law drew a box, and an entire category of motorcycle grew up to fill it perfectly. Cross the channel to the UK, and it is the same idea. A British learner can complete a single day of training called CBT, slap L plates on a 125, and legally ride it on the road that same afternoon. In Germany, if you have held a car license long enough and you are over 25, you can get access to a 125 with relatively little extra training. So across an entire continent, you have millions of young riders who are funneled deliberately and legally onto 125 cubic centimeter machines, often for years before they are even allowed to go bigger. That is not an accident of taste. That is a system engineered to make the 125 the universal starter bike. And honestly, it works beautifully. Now, the law explains Europe, but it doesn't fully explain why a farmer in Vietnam or a delivery rider in Nigeria is on a small bike. For them, it comes down to something even more basic: money and what a motorcycle actually does for a family. In most of the developing world, a 125 isn't a hobby or a midlife crisis purchase. It's the family vehicle. It just happens to have two wheels. And the math is brutal in its simplicity. A small motorcycle costs a fraction of what a car costs. It sips fuel between 50 and 70 kilometers per liter, and Honda famously advertised fuel economy on the original Super Cub, approaching 190 miles per gallon. It's cheap to insure, cheap to fix, and small enough to thread through gridlock that would trap a car for an hour. Families across Asia and Africa lean on these bikes in ways that would stop a Western rider cold, and you can strap an entire small business to the back of one. Let's make that concrete. In India, a base Hero Splendor starts at a small fraction of even the cheapest new car, and it'll return 60+ kilometers per liter while it does it. For a lower-income family, that's not a luxury decision. That's the difference between getting to work and not getting to work. A car simply isn't on the table. The bike is the only vehicle that exists in their world, and the 125 sits right in the sweet spot of cheap enough to buy and big enough to be genuinely useful. Which is exactly why ownership numbers in these countries are absolutely bonkers by American standards. In Vietnam, the National Traffic Safety Committee reported in late 2024 that there are more than 77 million registered motorcycles in the country. That works out to about 770 motorcycles for every 1,000 people, one of the highest rates on Earth, and they make up something like 85 to 90% of all the traffic on the road. Around 86% of Vietnamese households own at least one. It's the same picture across the region and beyond. In Indonesia, roughly 85% of households own a motorbike. In Nigeria, by estimates from the ride-hailing firms that operate there, more than 8 million small bikes work as taxis, the Okada, weaving through traffic that cars simply cannot. In Brazil, the motorcycle market just hit a record of around 2.33 million units in a single year, and Honda alone owns something like 72% of it with, you guessed it, small commuters like the CG and the Biz. There's even a tidy economic pattern underneath all of this. Researchers have noticed a kind of tipping point. While a country's income per person stays low, motorcycle sales boom because a bike is what a family can actually afford. Then, as people get richer and cross a certain income line, they start trading up to cars. So the small motorcycle isn't just the vehicle of the developing world by coincidence. It's the vehicle of a very specific stage of development, the rung on the ladder right before a country can afford 4 wheels. If you're enjoying this so far, do me a quick favor and hit subscribe, because this channel is basically just me falling down motorcycle rabbit holes like this one every single week. All right, back to it. So far, everything we've covered points in one clear direction: cheap, small, efficient, legally encouraged, perfect for crowded cities and tight budgets. By every logical measure, the 125cc motorcycle is one of the most sensible machines ever invented, and most of the planet agrees. So you'd expect America, a country absolutely obsessed with motorcycles, with Harley-Davidson and Sturgis, and the whole leather jacket, open road mythology, to be right there in the mix. People thought they had the full picture of American motorcycling. They didn't. Because America didn't just skip the small bike trend. America went and did the exact opposite. Here are the numbers, and I want you to hold them next to everything we just talked about. In all of 2025, the United States, a country of 340 million people, sold about 486,468 new motorcycles. Total. That's according to data from the Motorcycle Industry Council, and it was actually down nearly 8% from the year before. Let me reframe that, because the raw number doesn't quite land on its own. That's one new motorcycle sold for roughly every 700 Americans. Now compare that to Spain, a country of under 50 million, which sold so many bikes that it works out to one for every 187 people. So per person, Spain is buying motorcycles something like 4 times faster than the United States. And Spain isn't even one of the big motorcycle nations. But the size of the American market isn't even the strangest part. The strangest part is what Americans buy. Remember how the rest of the world rides small? In the US, it's the reverse. Cruisers and touring bikes, the biggest, heaviest, highest displacement machines on the market, dominate the fleet. Registration data from the IIHS shows cruisers alone making up around 38% of registered motorcycles, with big touring bikes another quarter on top of that. These are not 125 cubic centimeter bikes. These are land yachts. And the American fleet keeps getting bigger and older, growing from around 4 million registered bikes in 2002 to nearly 9 million 2 decades later, even as new sales stayed flat. And the engines just keep growing too. The big standard Harleys now run the Milwaukee 8 121, which is around 2,000 cubic centimeters. 2,000. The best-selling bike on the planet is a 125 cubic centimeter bike, and America's signature engine is 16 times that displacement. And if you really want to see how far it goes, Harley built a limited model called the CVO Road Glide RR. Only 131 of them exist. It makes 153 horsepower, and it costs about $110,000. That's not a typo, by the way. $110,000 for a motorcycle, which is more than most of the world would spend on a house, let alone a thing to ride to the bar on Saturday. Here's a stat that really drives the imbalance home. According to federal crash data, of the American motorcyclists who died in 2023, 82% were riding bikes over 500 cubic centimeters, and nearly half were on machines over 1,000 cubic centimeters. Now, researchers are careful to say that does not mean big bikes cause the crashes, but it tells you something crystal clear about what's actually parked in American garages. The US fleet runs enormous, so we've got our mystery in sharp focus now. The whole world rides small and cheap. America rides huge and expensive, and not even that many people do it. The question is simply, why? And it turns out there isn't one answer. There are about 4, and they stack on top of each other. The first reason is the most physical one, and it's written into the actual ground America is built on. The interstate highway. The United States is enormous, and it's stitched together by a web of freeways where the normal speed of traffic is 70 miles an hour or more. A typical 125 cubic centimeter motorcycle makes maybe 7 to 10 horsepower. It might touch 60 or even 70 on a good day. But sustaining 70 or more on an interstate hour after hour with nothing left in reserve for passing a truck or climbing a hill is a genuine struggle. On an American freeway, that's not just slow, it's a rolling roadblock in the fast lane. And the law noticed. In California, for example, a bike under 150 cubic centimeters is legally classified as a motor-driven cycle, a separate category from a full motorcycle, and motor-driven cycles can be banned from freeways wherever the signs are posted. It's not one blanket nationwide displacement law. It's a patchwork of classifications, posted restrictions, and minimum speed rules, but the effect is the same. The exact machine that's perfect in central Hanoi is, across much of America, either impractical or flat out not allowed on the roads people actually need to drive. The geography that makes the Super Cub a hero in Asia makes it nearly pointless in Texas. The second reason is the one almost nobody thinks about, and it might be the most important of all: licensing. Remember Europe's beautiful ladder? A1, then A2, then the full license. Each tier tied to engine size, each one forcing riders to spend real time on smaller bikes before they level up. America has nothing like that. In almost every US state, you take one written test and one riding test, you get a single thing called an M endorsement added to your license, and that's it. There are no displacement tiers, none. Which means a 16-year-old who passes the test on a little 300 can walk out the door and legally buy an 1,800 cubic centimeter monster the same afternoon. There is no system nudging anyone to start small, because there is no system, period. In Europe, the law practically hands every new rider a 125 and says here, spend a couple years on this. In America, the law shrugs and says, go nuts. And when there's no reason to buy small, and the highways punish you for it, people just don't. The third reason is the quiet one humming underneath everything. America had cheap cars and cheap gas for generations. The country crossed that income tipping point we talked about a long, long time ago. So the motorcycle in America never had to be transportation. The car already did that job, affordably, with a roof and a heater and room for the kids. So the motorcycle got to become something else entirely, something to enjoy, a weekend machine, a choice rather than a necessity. And once a motorcycle is a choice instead of a chore, the whole logic flips. You are not buying the most sensible, efficient thing. You are buying the thing that feels the best, the thing with presence, the thing that rumbles. And that brings us to the fourth reason, which is the one you cannot put a number on: culture. In Vietnam, a motorbike means you can get to work. In America, a motorcycle means freedom, rebellion, the open road, the lone rider against the horizon. It's Harley Davidson and Easy Rider and the whole leather and chrome mythology. That image is worth a fortune, and a quiet little 125 cubic centimeters commuter carries exactly none of it. You cannot sell rebellion on a scooter that sips 190 miles per gallon. So America built its entire motorcycle identity around the opposite of what the rest of the world rides, and it built it on purpose. But here's the part that almost nobody knows. It didn't have to be this way. There was a moment, a real one, when America nearly became a nation of small bike riders. And to find it, we have to go back to the 1960s. When American Honda first opened its doors in Los Angeles in 1959, it was almost a flop. In the first 6 months, they sold 170 bikes. Americans at the time wanted big, loud Harleys and Triumphs, and they associated motorcycles with the outlaw biker image, the guys in gangs, the troublemakers. A tiny Japanese step-through was a hard sell. Then, in 1963, Honda ran one of the most effective advertising campaigns in history. The slogan was, "You meet the nicest people on a Honda." The story goes that it began as a class project from a UCLA student, and the Gray advertising agency turned it into a full campaign. And the ads did something radical. Instead of leather-clad rebels, they showed housewives, college students, families, ordinary, cheerful people riding cute little Honda 50s to the store and the beach. They deliberately ripped motorcycling away from the outlaw image and made it wholesome, fun, and friendly. And it absolutely exploded. American motorcycle sales rocketed, largely thanks to Honda, and by the mid-60s, Honda commanded over half the entire US motorcycle market. At the peak, they were selling something like 7,500 bikes a month, in an era when US distributors had literally said nobody sold that many in a year. The Beach Boys recorded a song called Little Honda. Suddenly, small bikes were not just acceptable in America. For one shining moment, they were genuinely cool. It went even further than commuting. Honda rolled out little trail bikes like the CT90 that Americans strapped to the back of their campers and rode into the woods, and a whole recreational dual sport craze took off. For a few years there, it really did look like the small, friendly, do-anything bike was about to become a permanent fixture of American life. So why did it not stick? Why is America not a nation of 125 riders today? Because it was a craze, not a conversion. Honda even admitted in its own company history that the little bike was never a daily necessity for Americans the way it was for a family in Asia. It was fun. It was a novelty. And novelties fade. The cheap cars were still there. The cheap gas was still there. The interstates were still there, demanding the speed the little bikes could not deliver. So once the fad cooled, Americans drifted back toward bigger machines and four wheels. Honda itself started selling up to larger bikes, and Harley eventually leaned all the way into the very rebel image those ads had pushed against. The road not taken just quietly closed. So that's the whole story, right? The world went small, America went big, and that's where it ends. Except it doesn't, because something genuinely interesting is happening in America right now, and it flips the ending on its head. Small bikes are coming back. Sort of. Look at the recent US sales data, and you'll find something surprising buried in it. Even as the overall American motorcycle market shrank in 2025, sport bikes actually grew by around 13%, and all of that growth came from models under 750 cubic centimeters. Smaller adventure bikes grew too. Meanwhile, the big traditional categories, touring and cruisers, the land yachts, both shrank. Over the past 5 years, sport bike sales are up more than 70%, and a lot of those buyers are young. Honda has built a whole cult following around its mini-moto lineup, the Grom, the Monkey, the Trail 125, and the budget little Navi, some of them landing well under $4,000 brand new. Royal Enfield has surged in America on the back of charming, affordable 350 cubic centimeter singles, proving that a cheap, simple, mid-displacement bike with real character can absolutely sell here. A new generation of riders, plus more women getting into riding, plus electric options and e-bikes blurring the lines, are all reshaping where people enter the sport. And for the first time in decades, small and cheap and fun are selling in America again. But here's the twist, and it's the perfect punchline to this entire story. Americans aren't buying these small bikes as transportation, they're buying them as toys. The Grom isn't a Vietnamese family's only vehicle, it's a fun little second or third bike for someone who already owns a car, and probably a bigger bike too. Even when America finally embraces the small motorcycle, it does it in the most American way possible. Not as the sensible thing, as the fun thing. Which brings us all the way back around to where we started, to that little Honda Super Cub, the most produced motor vehicle in the history of the human race. The machine that helped put hundreds of millions of people into motion, 110 million units and counting. A bike so good, so cheap, so quietly perfect that most of the planet still rides its descendants every single day. And after 2024, Honda stopped selling it new in America. There's something almost poetic in that. The same machine that's a lifeline in Lagos and a daily ride in Hanoi became, in the wealthiest car country on earth, a thing too few people needed to keep on the shelves. It's not that Americans are wrong and the world is right or the other way around. It's that a country's machines quietly tell you what that country is. They tell you what it can afford, what its roads demand, what its laws reward, and what it dreams about when it dreams about the open road. Much of the world looked at the motorcycle first as transportation, a way to get to work and feed a family. America increasingly treated it as recreation and identity, a way to feel free on a Sunday morning. Neither view is wrong. They simply grew out of different roads, different economies, and different ideas about what a motorcycle was ever supposed to be. So next time you see one of those little bikes buzzing through traffic in a video from halfway across the world, stacked impossibly high, weaving like it owns the place, just remember, you're not looking at a cheap scooter, you're looking at the most produced vehicle humanity ever built. The whole planet's ride, the one America never quite made its own. If you found this as fascinating as I did, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe, because next week we're going even deeper down the two-wheeled rabbit hole. I'll see you then.